My name is Victoria Sterling. I am 42 years old, the CEO and founder of Sterling Digital Marketing Agency. The champagne flute slipped from my fingers and shattered against the marble floor of the hotel ballroom, crystal fragments catching the light like tiny daggers. The sound cut through the wedding reception's gentle hum of conversation and clinking silverware, but no one noticed. They were all too busy watching the bride and groom's first dance, their faces glowing with that nauseating happiness that comes from stealing someone else's life. I stood frozen in the shadows near the back wall, my black dress making me nearly invisible among the draped curtains. The scent of white roses, her favorite, which used to be mine, filled the air so thick I could taste their sweetness on my tongue. My hands trembled as I reached into my purse and felt the smooth edges of the manila envelope that would end this fairy tale in the next 10 minutes. David spun his new bride across the dance floor, her white dress flowing like spilled milk. Amanda giggled, that same high-pitched laugh that used to echo through my office when she thought no one was listening to her phone calls. When she thought I didn't know she was planning to destroy my marriage while sitting at the desk I'd bought her. Beautiful ceremony, wasn't it? I turned to find an elderly woman beside me, her eyes kind but curious. She wore pearls and the confident smile of someone who belonged here, someone who'd been invited. Absolutely stunning, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. Are you family? I don't think we've met. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. I'm Victoria, I said, extending my hand. I work with the groom. Worked with him. The woman's face lit up with recognition. Oh my goodness, you're the ex-wife. Amanda mentioned you might come. How wonderful that you're here to support them. The words hit me like ice water. Amanda had mentioned me, had expected me to come, had probably laughed about it with David, imagining me sitting alone in my empty house while they celebrated their stolen happiness. Yes, well, I said, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The music shifted to something slower, more intimate. David pulled Amanda closer, whispering something in her ear that made her throw her head back and laugh. The same way she used to laugh when she was stealing my clients' information from my computer, when she was copying my business strategies and feeding them to David during their secret meetings. I watched my husband, ex-husband, dance with the woman who'd been my assistant for 3 years. The woman I'd trusted with my passwords, my client lists, my business plans. The woman who'd sat in my office every day, taking notes while I built Sterling Digital from nothing, all while planning to take half of it away from me. The elderly woman was still talking, something about how lovely the flowers were, but her voice faded into background noise. All I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat and the rustle of paper as I gripped the envelope tighter. Inside were photographs, bank statements, email printouts, text message screenshots. 2 years' worth of evidence that would prove David and Amanda hadn't just been having an affair. They'd been systematically stealing from my company and funneling money into offshore accounts. Money they'd used to start their own competing agency 6 months before David filed for divorce. The dance ended, and the crowd applauded. David kissed Amanda's forehead, and she beamed up at him like he'd hung the moon. Like he hadn't spent the last year of our marriage lying to my face while she sat in my conference room, taking notes on how to destroy me. Excuse me, I said to the elderly woman who was now talking about the wedding cake. I need to use the restroom. I walked through the crowd, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Guests smiled and nodded as I passed, probably thinking I was just another wedding guest in a black dress. They had no idea they were about to witness the end of a marriage that had started with theft and was about to end with exposure. The hotel's powder room was empty, all mirrors and soft lighting. I stared at my reflection, 42 years old, still beautiful despite everything David had put me through. My dark hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, my makeup flawless. I looked like success, like someone who had her life together. But my hands were still shaking. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I'd memorized but never called. Detective Sarah Martinez, White Collar Crime Division. We'd met at a networking event 6 months ago, and she'd given me her card with a knowing look. If you ever need someone to look into financial irregularities, she'd said, call me. I'd kept her card in my wallet ever since, waiting for the right moment. This was the right moment. Detective Martinez? This is Victoria Sterling. We met at the Chamber of Commerce event. Yes, I remember you too. Listen, I have some information about a case you might be interested in. Financial fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. Tonight? Yes, I can meet tonight. Actually, I'm at the Grandview Hotel right now. There's a wedding reception in the main ballroom. You'll come here? Thank you. I hung up and checked my watch. 8:30 p.m. Detective Martinez said she could be here in 20 minutes. The reception would go until midnight, plenty of time for what I had planned. I walked back into the ballroom, but this time I didn't hide in the shadows. I walked straight to the head table where David and Amanda sat with their wedding party, all of them laughing and toasting their future together. Victoria. David's face went pale when he saw me. We didn't think you'd come. Wouldn't miss it, I said, my voice honey-sweet. Congratulations, Amanda. You look beautiful. Amanda's smile faltered for just a second. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I brought you a wedding gift, I said, placing the manila envelope on the table between them. Something I thought you should have. David stared at the envelope like it might explode. Victoria, what is this? Open it and see. The wedding party had gone quiet, sensing tension. Amanda reached for the envelope with trembling fingers, but David caught her wrist. Not here, he said quietly. Whatever this is, not here. Oh, but I think your guests would be very interested, I said. Especially the ones who invested in your new company. The ones who don't know where their money really came from. Amanda's face went white. David, what is she talking about? Nothing, David said quickly. She's just trying to cause trouble. Am I? I smiled and pulled out my phone, because I have Detective Martinez on speed dial now. She's very interested in financial crimes, especially ones involving stolen client lists and embezzled funds. The color drained from David's face completely. Around us, wedding guests were starting to notice the commotion. Conversations were stopping, heads were turning. You have no proof of anything, David, don't I? I opened the envelope and pulled out a single photograph. It showed David and Amanda at a restaurant, heads bent over a laptop screen. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 months before David filed for divorce. This is you two planning your new business, using my client database. I have dozens more. Amanda stood up so fast her chair fell backward. I need some air. She rushed toward the exit, her white dress trailing behind her. David started to follow, but I caught his arm. Sit down, David. We're not done talking. Victoria, please. Don't do this here. Where should I do it? In court? In front of a judge? Because that's where we're headed anyway. The band had stopped playing. The entire ballroom was watching us now, sensing drama, but not understanding what they were witnessing. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, raising my voice so everyone could hear, I'd like to propose a toast to the happy couple. David grabbed my wrist. Victoria, stop. To David and Amanda, I continued, pulling free, who proved that true love can overcome any obstacle, even theft, fraud, and embezzlement. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass. The elderly woman I'd spoken to earlier had her hand over her mouth in shock. You're insane, David hissed. No one will believe you. They don't have to believe me, I said. They just have to believe the evidence. I pulled out another photograph, this one showing Amanda at my office computer at 11 p.m., downloading files she had no authorization to access. Or this one, I said, holding up a bank statement, showing mysterious deposits into your personal account that match exactly with withdrawals from Sterling Digital's client trust fund. David lunged for the papers, but I stepped back. The crowd pressed closer, trying to see what was happening. Where's Amanda? Someone called out. Where's the bride? We all turned toward the exit. Amanda was nowhere to be seen. She's probably calling her lawyer, I said. Smart girl. She's going to need one. David's best man, a guy named Rick who'd never liked me, stepped forward. This is crazy, Victoria. You're ruining their wedding day because you're bitter about the divorce. Am I? I pulled out my phone and showed him a text message thread. These are messages between David and Amanda from last year. Want me to read them out loud? Rick's face changed as he read the screen. Oh my God. What does it say? Someone called out. I cleared my throat and began reading. Amanda to David. Got the Morrison account files. She'll never notice they're gone. David to Amanda. Perfect. Transfer the money tonight. We'll be ready to launch by Christmas. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. David grabbed for my phone, but Rick held him back. Dude, Rick said quietly. Is this real? David's shoulders sagged. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you stole from your wife's business to start your own, Rick said. It looks like you've been planning this for over a year. She was going to find out eventually, David said, his voice barely audible. The business was failing. We needed the money to survive.
So you stole it, I said.
From me. From my clients. From people who trusted us. We were going to pay it back. With what? The money you made using my stolen client list. David looked around the ballroom at all the faces staring at him. His family, his friends, his new wife's family. All of them seeing him for what he really was. Where's Amanda? His mother asked, her voice shaking. Where's my new daughter-in-law? We all looked toward the exit again. Still no sign of the bride. I'll go find her, Rick said, but before he could move, the ballroom doors burst open. Detective Martinez walked in, her badge visible on her belt, followed by 2 uniformed officers. David Sterling? She called out. Amanda Chen? We need to speak with you. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. David stood frozen at the head table, still in his tuxedo, looking like a deer in headlights. Amanda's not here, I said. She left about 10 minutes ago. Detective Martinez nodded to one of the officers, who immediately spoke into his radio. We need units to check the parking garage and all exits. This is a mistake, David said weakly. We haven't done anything wrong. Mr. Sterling, Detective Martinez said, we have evidence of wire fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft. You have the right to remain silent. As she read him his rights, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years.
Peace.
Not happiness, not satisfaction, just peace. The kind that comes from finally telling the truth after living with lies for so long. The wedding guests stood in stunned silence as David was handcuffed. His mother was crying. His father looked like he might have a heart attack. Victoria, Detective Martinez said, we're going to need you to come to the station to give a formal statement. Of course. As we walked toward the exit, I heard someone behind me say, what about the bride? Where did Amanda go? I turned back to look at the ballroom one last time. The white roses, the elegant decorations, the wedding cake that would never be cut. It looked like the scene of a crime now, which I supposed it was. Detective, I said as we reached the door, you might want to check the airport. Why? Because Amanda's smarter than David. She probably figured out this day would come eventually. Detective Martinez nodded and spoke into her radio again. Check all flights departing in the next 4 hours. Suspect may be attempting to flee. We walked out into the hotel lobby, leaving behind the wreckage of what was supposed to be the happiest day of David and Amanda's lives. But as we reached the parking garage, Detective Martinez's radio crackled with an urgent message that made my blood run cold. Detective, we found the bride's car in the garage. Engine still running, driver's door open. But there's no sign of Amanda Chen. Detective Martinez looked at me with concern. Victoria, is there anywhere else she might go? Anyone she might call? I thought about Amanda, brilliant, calculating Amanda, who'd spent 3 years learning every detail of my life and business. Detective, I said slowly, I think Amanda might know something about this case that we don't. Something that made her run before you even got here. What do you mean? I mean, what if David wasn't the mastermind? What if Amanda was? Before Detective Martinez could respond, her phone rang. She answered it, her face growing more serious with each word. We need to get back upstairs, she said when she hung up.
Right now. Why?
Because someone just found Amanda's wedding dress in the hotel dumpster. And there's blood on it. The elevator ride back to the ballroom felt like descending into hell. Detective Martinez spoke rapidly into her radio while I pressed my back against the cold metal wall, my mind racing. Blood on Amanda's wedding dress. Her car abandoned with the engine running. This wasn't supposed to happen. Victoria, Detective Martinez said as the elevator dinged, I need you to think carefully. Did Amanda have any enemies? Anyone who might want to hurt her? Besides me? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Besides you. The elevator doors opened to chaos. Police officers were everywhere, interviewing wedding guests, taking statements, sectioning off areas with yellow tape. The beautiful reception had become a crime scene in less than an hour. David sat at a table near the windows, still handcuffed, his tuxedo wrinkled and his face pale. When he saw me, his eyes filled with something I'd never seen before.
Fear.
Victoria, he called out. Please, you have to help me. I didn't hurt Amanda. I would never hurt her. Detective Martinez guided me past him to a quiet corner where another detective was waiting. He was older, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. This is Detective Rodriguez, Martinez said. He's taking lead on the missing person case. Mrs. Sterling, Rodriguez said, we need to understand the timeline here. When exactly did you last see Amanda? I closed my eyes, trying to remember. She got up from the table when I showed David the photographs. She said she needed air and rushed toward the exit. That was maybe 20 minutes ago. And you didn't follow her? No. I stayed to confront David. Rodriguez made notes. What was her emotional state when she left? Panicked. Scared. She knew she was caught. Caught doing what, exactly? I looked around the ballroom. Wedding guests were clustered in small groups, whispering and pointing. Some were crying. Others looked angry. All of them were staring at me like I was responsible for ruining their evening. Maybe I was. Amanda and David stole from my company, I said quietly. They embezzled money, stole client lists, used my business plans to start their own competing agency. I had evidence. I was going to expose them tonight. So you came to their wedding to destroy them? The question hung in the air like smoke. When he put it that way, it sounded cruel, vindictive, like something a bitter ex-wife would do. I came to get justice, I said. And now Amanda's missing. Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. Rodriguez's radio crackled. Detective, we found something in the parking garage. What is it? Security footage. You need to see this. We followed Rodriguez down to the hotel's security office, a cramped room filled with monitors and recording equipment. A young security guard with nervous hands pulled up footage from the parking garage. This is from about 15 minutes ago, he said, pointing to a timestamp. Camera 3, level B2. On the screen, I watched Amanda run through the parking garage in her wedding dress, her veil trailing behind her like a ghost. She was moving fast, looking over her shoulder every few steps. She's running from something, Martinez observed. Or someone, Rodriguez added. Amanda reached her car, a white BMW that David had bought her for her birthday last year with money he'd stolen from me. She fumbled with her keys, dropped them, picked them up again. She's terrified, I whispered. Then something happened that made my blood freeze. A figure emerged from behind a concrete pillar. Tall, wearing dark clothes, face obscured by shadows. The figure approached Amanda slowly, deliberately. Can you enhance that? Rodriguez asked. The security guard zoomed in, but the image was too grainy to make out details. We watched as the figure got closer to Amanda. She turned around, saw them, and her mouth opened in what looked like a scream. But there was no audio. What happens next? Martinez asked. The security guard fast-forwarded. Amanda and the figure seemed to be talking. Then Amanda opened her car door and got in. The figure walked around to the passenger side and got in too.
She knew them, I said.
She let them in her car. Or they forced her, Rodriguez said. We watched as the BMW drove toward the exit. The camera angle changed, showing the car leaving the garage. The timestamp read 8:47 p.m. "That's it," the security guard said. "The car doesn't come back." "But we found her car here," Martinez said, "with the engine running." "Different car," Rodriguez said grimly. "Someone brought it back." The security guard pulled up more footage. At 9:15 p.m., the white BMW returned to the garage. But this time, only one person got out. The same shadowy figure from before. "Where's Amanda?" I asked, though I was afraid of the answer. The figure walked to the dumpster area, carrying what looked like a bundle of white fabric. They threw it in and walked away, disappearing into the shadows between cars. "The wedding dress," Martinez said, "with blood on it." Rodriguez was already on his radio, calling for more units, for forensics, for a full investigation. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was staring at the screen, at the timestamp, at the terrible realization that was forming in my mind. "Detective," I said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "What?" I wasn't the only person who wanted to hurt Amanda. Rodriguez looked up from his radio. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Amanda made a lot of enemies when she was stealing from my company. She didn't just steal from me. She stole from my clients too." "Which clients?" I thought about the files Amanda had accessed, the accounts she'd compromised, the people whose trust she'd violated. "There's one in particular," I said slowly. "Marcus Chen. No relation, despite the same last name. He's a real estate developer. Amanda stole his entire client database and sold it to his biggest competitor." "How much money are we talking about?" "Marcus lost 3 major deals because of what Amanda did. We're talking about millions of dollars." Rodriguez and Martinez exchanged looks. "Where can we find this Marcus Chen?" Rodriguez asked. "He has an office downtown." "But detective, there's something else you should know about Marcus." "What?" "He's not stable. When he found out what Amanda had done, he came to my office and threatened her. Said he was going to make her pay for what she'd cost him." "When was this?" 2 weeks ago." Rodriguez was writing furiously. "Did you report the threat?" "No, I thought he was just blowing off steam. I never imagined he'd actually hurt her." But even as I said it, I remembered the look in Marcus's eyes that day. The cold fury, the calculated way he'd spoken about revenge. He hadn't been blowing off steam. He'd been planning. "We need to find Marcus Chen," Rodriguez said into his radio. "Real estate developer, downtown office. Consider him armed and dangerous." As the police mobilized to search for Marcus, I found myself thinking about Amanda. Despite everything she'd done to me, despite the lies and the theft and the betrayal, I didn't want her to be hurt. I wanted her to face justice, not violence. "Mrs. Sterling," Martinez said, "we're going to need you to stay available. Don't leave town." "Am I a suspect?" "Everyone's a suspect until we find Amanda." I looked around the security office, at the monitors showing empty parking garage levels, at the detectives coordinating a search for a missing bride and a potential killer. "What about David?" I asked. "He's being processed on the fraud charges. But if something's happened to Amanda, those might be the least of his problems." "You think he's involved in her disappearance?" "I think a lot of people had reasons to want Amanda Chen gone tonight, including her new husband." The words hit me like a slap. David might be a thief and a liar, but he wasn't a killer. Was he? Rodriguez's radio crackled again. "Detective, we found Marcus Chen's office. It's empty, but there are signs of a struggle. And we found something else." "What?" "A wedding invitation. For tonight's ceremony." I felt the room spin around me. Marcus had been invited to the wedding. He'd been here, in the hotel, watching and waiting. "There's more," the voice on the radio continued. "We found Amanda Chen's purse in Chen's office. And there's blood in it." Martinez grabbed my arm to steady me. "Victoria, are you okay?" "I think I'm going to be sick." She guided me to a chair. "Put your head between your knees. Breathe." But I couldn't breathe, because I was starting to realize that this was all my fault. If I hadn't exposed Amanda and David tonight, if I'd waited and gone through proper legal channels, Amanda might still be alive. "This is my fault," I whispered. "No, it's not," Martinez said firmly.
You didn't kidnap Amanda.
You didn't hurt her. You were seeking justice for crimes committed against you. But if I hadn't come here tonight, someone else would have gotten to her eventually. People like Amanda make enemies. It was only a matter of time. Rodriguez's radio crackled again. All units, we have a possible location on Marcus Chen. Anonymous tip says he's at the old Riverside Warehouse District. Units are responding. I want to go, I said, standing up. Absolutely not, Rodriguez said. You're staying here. She's my responsibility. If I hadn't exposed her tonight, she'd be safe. If she's even still alive, Rodriguez said bluntly. And if you go out there, you might end up dead too. The security guard, who'd been quietly monitoring the police radio, suddenly looked up. Detective, you need to hear this. He turned up the volume on the radio. A dispatcher's voice filled the room. All units, we have a situation at the Riverside warehouse. Suspect is barricaded inside with a hostage. Hostage appears to be a female in a wedding dress. SWAT is en route. My heart stopped. Amanda was alive. But for how long? I'm going, Rodriguez said, heading for the door.
Take me with you, I said.
No way. Marcus knows me. If he's as unstable as I think he is, maybe I can talk to him. Maybe I can help. Rodriguez paused. You said he threatened Amanda in your office. Did he threaten you too? I thought back to that day 2 weeks ago. Marcus standing in my conference room, his face red with anger, his hands clenched into fists. He said that anyone who helped Amanda steal from him would pay the same price she did. And you helped her by giving her access to his files? She was my employee. I trusted her. Rodriguez looked at Martinez, then back at me. If you come with us, you stay in the car. You don't get out, you don't try to be a hero. Understood? Understood. As we rushed toward the elevator, the security guard called out behind us. Detective, there's something else on the footage. Something you missed. We turned back. He was rewinding the parking garage video, going back to when Amanda first ran her car. Look at this, he said, pointing to the screen. Right before the figure approaches her. He zoomed in on Amanda's face as she fumbled with her keys. Her mouth was moving, like she was talking to someone. She's on the phone, Martinez said. Can you enhance the audio? There is no audio on these cameras. But look at her body language. She's not scared yet. She's talking to someone she trusts. She called someone for help, I said. Someone she thought would save her. Or someone who told her where to meet them, Rodriguez said grimly. As we got in the elevator, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were missing something important. Something about the timeline, about who Amanda had called, about why she'd gone to the parking garage in the first place. The elevator doors closed, and we descended toward what I hoped wouldn't be another crime scene. But as we reached the lobby, Rodriguez's radio delivered news that changed everything. Detective, we've got a problem. The warehouse is empty. No sign of Marcus Chen or the hostage. But we found something else. What? A cell phone. Amanda Chen's cell phone. And the last call she made was to David Sterling, her husband. Rodriguez looked at me with grim realization. We've been chasing the wrong man. The police station felt like a tomb at midnight. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Detective Rodriguez led me through empty corridors toward the interrogation rooms. David sat behind reinforced glass, still wearing his tuxedo but with the bow tie undone and hanging around his neck like a noose. He's been asking for you, Rodriguez said. Claims he has information about Amanda's whereabouts, but he'll only talk to you. Why me? Maybe because you're the only person left who knows him well enough to tell when he's lying. Through the glass, David looked smaller than I remembered. Broken. His perfect wedding day had turned into a nightmare, and for the first time in 2 years, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Mrs. Sterling, Detective Martinez appeared beside us, holding a thick file. We found something interesting in Amanda's phone records. What? She made 17 calls to David between 8:30 and 8:45 tonight. He never answered. Because he was being arrested. No, the arrest happened at 8:50. These calls were made before we even arrived at the hotel. I stared through the glass at David. So, She was trying to reach him while she was running through the parking garage. It gets worse, Martinez continued. We pulled David's phone records too. He made a call at 8:25 tonight. Want to guess who he called? My stomach dropped. Marcus Chen. Bingo. A 3-minute conversation, right before Amanda disappeared. Rodriguez opened the interrogation room door. Ready to hear what your ex-husband has to say? David looked up when I entered, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. Victoria, thank God. You have to help me. They think I hurt Amanda. Did you?
No.
I love her. I would never. You loved me too once. That didn't stop you from destroying my life. David flinched like I'd slapped him. That was different. That was business. Business. I sat down across from him, the metal table cold under my palms. You stole from me, David. You lied to me for over a year. You used my own employee to betray me. We were going to pay it back. With what money? The money you made using my stolen client list. David's shoulders sagged. You don't understand the pressure I was under. The debts, the threats. What threats? He looked up sharply, realizing he'd said too much. David, I said quietly, what threats? Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you're hooked already, a like and subscribe will keep these stories coming. It doesn't matter now. It matters if Amanda's life is in danger. David was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Marcus Chen wasn't the only client Amanda stole from. What do you mean? There were others. Bigger clients. Dangerous clients. My blood went cold. How dangerous? The kind who don't take theft lightly. The kind who make people disappear. Jesus, David. What did you two get involved in? Amanda was supposed to just copy some files. Simple corporate espionage. But she got greedy. She started selling information to multiple buyers, playing them against each other. And they found out. 3 weeks ago, a man came to our office. Said Amanda had cost his organization millions of dollars. Said she had 48 hours to return the money or face the consequences. Why didn't you go to the police? David laughed bitterly. With what? Evidence that we'd been stealing from your company. We would have gone to prison. So, instead you decided to get married and hope the problem would go away? We thought if we could liquidate some assets, pay back what we owed, maybe they'd leave us alone. But you couldn't pay it back, could you? Not all of it. We were still short $2 million. I felt sick. So, you called Marcus Chen tonight. David's face went white. How did you? The police have your phone records, David. You called Marcus at 8:25. What did you tell him? I told him where Amanda was. The words hung in the air like poison. I stared at my ex-husband, this man I'd once loved, this man I'd built a life with, and realized I was looking at a stranger. You sold her out. I didn't have a choice. They said if I didn't give them Amanda, they'd come after me next. So, you sacrificed the woman you claimed to love. I thought they just wanted to scare her. I didn't think they'd actually hurt her. I stood up so fast the chair fell backward. You're pathetic. Victoria, please. You have to understand. I understand perfectly. You're a coward who throws other people under the bus to save himself. I turned toward the door, but David's voice stopped me. There's something else you need to know. What? Amanda wasn't just stealing from your clients. She was stealing from you personally. What are you talking about? Your personal accounts. Your retirement fund. Your mother's trust fund that you inherited.
The room spun around me.
That's impossible. She didn't have access to my personal accounts. She had your passwords, Victoria. She had access to everything. How much? David couldn't meet my eyes. All of it. I grabbed the table to steady myself. How much, David? $3.7 million. The number hit me like a physical blow. My mother's trust fund. The money she'd left me to secure my future. The money I'd been saving to start a family with David before I found out he was cheating. Where is it? Offshore accounts. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, places where it can't be traced. Can you get it back? Only Amanda knew the account numbers, the passwords, everything. I sank back into the chair, my legs too weak to hold me. So, if Amanda's dead, the money's gone forever. Detective Rodriguez's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Sterling, we need you out here.
Now.
I stood on shaking legs and walked to the door. In the hallway, Rodriguez and Martinez were waiting with grim expressions. What is it? We found Amanda, Martinez said. Is she alive?
Yes.
But Victoria, there's something you need to know before we take you to her. What? She's not a victim. She's a suspect. The words didn't make sense. What do you mean? We found her at Marcus Chen's house. She wasn't kidnapped. She was hiding. Hiding from what? From you. Rodriguez pulled out a tablet and showed me security footage from Marcus Chen's house. Amanda sat in a living room, very much alive, very much unharmed, talking animatedly to Marcus. This was recorded an hour ago, Rodriguez said. She's been there all evening. But the blood on her dress?
Fake.
Theatrical blood from a costume shop. We found the receipt in her purse. I stared at the screen, trying to process what I was seeing. So she faked her own kidnapping? It gets worse, Martinez said. We've been monitoring their conversation. Amanda and Marcus aren't enemies. They're partners. Partners in what? In framing you for her murder. The hallway tilted sideways. What? Think about it, Victoria. You show up at their wedding with evidence of their crimes. You publicly humiliate them. Then Amanda disappears, and all the evidence points to you having a motive to hurt her. But I was with you when she disappeared. For part of the time. But there's a 40-minute window where you could have left the hotel, confronted Amanda, and returned before we noticed. That's insane. I would never hurt anyone. A jury might see it differently. Bitter ex-wife seeks revenge on the woman who stole her husband and her money. Rodriguez showed me another piece of footage. This is from the hotel's back entrance. Someone matching your description was seen leaving the building at 8:35 and returning at 9:15. I looked at the grainy image. It could have been me. Same height, same build, same dark hair. That's not me. Can you prove it? I thought back to the timeline. At 8:35, I'd been in the ballroom confronting David. But could I prove it? Had anyone been paying attention to me specifically? The elderly woman, I said suddenly. The one I talked to during the reception. She can vouch for me. We interviewed her. She said you disappeared for about an hour after the confrontation with David. I was in the bathroom, then the security office. The bathroom doesn't have cameras. And you didn't arrive at the security office until 9:20. I felt the walls closing in around me. This is a setup. Maybe. Or maybe you're exactly what you appear to be. A woman who finally snapped and decided to take justice into her own hands. I want a lawyer. That's your right. But Victoria, there's something else you should know. What now? Martinez pulled out another file. We found the offshore accounts David mentioned. The ones with your stolen money. And they're empty. All $3.7 million was transferred out this morning. To where? An account in Amanda's name. In Switzerland. The pieces clicked together in my mind. She planned this. All of it. Planned what? The wedding, the confrontation, the fake kidnapping. She knew I'd come tonight. She was counting on it. Why? Because she needed a scapegoat. Someone to blame for her disappearance while she escaped with all the money. Rodriguez looked skeptical. That's a pretty elaborate plan.
You don't know Amanda. She's brilliant. Calculating.
She spent 3 years studying me, learning my patterns, my weaknesses. So you're saying she orchestrated her own fake murder to frame you? I'm saying she's been planning this for months. Maybe years. Martinez's radio crackled. Detective, we have a situation at the Chin house. What kind of situation? Amanda Chin just tried to leave. When our units moved to stop her, she pulled a gun. Is anyone hurt? Negative. But she's barricaded herself inside with Marcus Chin. Claims she has explosives. Rodriguez grabbed his keys. We're heading over there. What about me? You're coming too. If Amanda really is trying to frame you, we need to end this tonight. As we rushed toward the parking garage, I thought about Amanda sitting in that house, planning my destruction while I'd been fighting for justice. She'd played me perfectly, using my own desire for revenge against me. But she'd made one mistake. She'd underestimated how far I was willing to go to protect myself. The drive to Marcus Chen's house took 20 minutes through empty streets. Police cars surrounded the modest suburban home, their red and blue lights painting the neighborhood in alternating colors of danger. "Mrs. Sterling," Rodriguez said as we parked, "I need you to understand something. If we go in there and Amanda accuses you of threatening her, of planning to hurt her, it's going to be very hard to prove your innocence. Then we better make sure she doesn't get the chance to lie." "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a recording app. "I've been recording everything since this started. Every conversation, every accusation, every threat. That's illegal without consent. Not in this state. And not when it's evidence of a crime." Rodriguez looked at the phone, then at me. "What exactly do you have on there?" "David confessing to embezzlement. Amanda's voice on my office security system, planning the theft. Marcus Chen threatening violence. Why didn't you tell us about this before?" "Because I wanted to handle this myself. I wanted justice, not just revenge. And now..." I looked at the house where Amanda was hiding, where she was probably planning her next move in the elaborate game she'd been playing with my life. "Now I want the truth." Rodriguez's radio crackled. "Detective, the suspect is asking to speak with Victoria Sterling. Says she has information about the missing money." "It's a trap," Martinez said. "Probably," I agreed. "But it's also an opportunity." "For what?" "To end this once and for all." Rodriguez looked at me for a long moment. "You sure you want to do this?" "I've been sure since the moment I walked into that wedding reception." "Okay. But you wear a wire, and we have snipers positioned. If anything goes wrong..." "Nothing will go wrong," I said. "Because Amanda's about to find out that she's not the only one who can plan ahead." As the police fitted me with a wire and briefed me on the plan, I thought about my father's advice from when I was a child. Sometimes, Victoria, the only way to catch a liar is to let them think they've already won. Tonight, Amanda was going to learn that lesson the hard way. The front door of Marcus Chen's house opened, and Amanda appeared in the doorway. She was still wearing her wedding dress, but it was torn and dirty now. Her makeup was smeared, her hair disheveled. She looked like a victim. But I knew better. "Hello, Amanda," I called out. "I hear you wanted to talk." "Victoria," she said, her voice shaking with what sounded like fear. "Thank God you're here. I need your help." "Help with what?" "Marcus has gone crazy. He's holding me hostage. He says he's going to kill me unless you confess to stealing his money." I walked closer to the house, my hands visible, the wire recording every word. "That's interesting, Amanda. Because according to the police, you've been here voluntarily all evening." "That's not true. He forced me to come here. He threatened to hurt David if I didn't cooperate." "Really? Then why did you fake your own kidnapping?" Amanda's mask slipped forward just a second. A flash of anger crossed her face before she composed herself. "I don't know what you're talking about. The blood on your dress, Amanda. It was fake. The police found the receipt." "You're lying." "Am I? Then explain this." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Amanda's voice filled the air, clear and unmistakable. "The plan is simple. We make it look like Victoria snapped and tried to hurt me. While everyone's looking for her, we disappear with the money." Amanda's face went white. "Where did you get that?" "Your office. The same office where you planned to steal from me. Did you really think I wouldn't bug the place after I found out what you were doing?" "That recording is illegal." "Maybe, but it's also the truth." Amanda looked around at the police officers surrounding the house, at the snipers on nearby rooftops, at the trap she'd walked into. "You can't prove anything," she said desperately. "It's your word against mine." "Actually, it's not." Marcus Chen appeared in the doorway behind Amanda. But instead of looking like a hostage, he looked relieved. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Sterling," he said. "I've been waiting all evening to tell the police what really happened." Amanda spun around. Marcus, don't. She's been blackmailing me for months, Marcus continued, threatening to destroy my business unless I helped her frame you for her fake murder. He's lying, Amanda screamed. He's the one who planned everything. Then explain this, Marcus said, pulling out his phone. He played a recording of Amanda's voice. If you don't help me destroy Victoria Sterling, I'll make sure everyone knows about your gambling debts. Your wife, your business partners, everyone. Amanda's composure finally cracked completely. You bastard. We had a deal. The deal was off the moment you threatened my family. Amanda looked around wildly, realizing she was trapped. The police were closing in, her co-conspirator had turned against her, and all her lies were unraveling. This isn't over, she said, looking directly at me. Even if you prove I'm lying, you'll never get your money back. It's gone, Victoria. All of it. Actually, I said, smiling for the first time all evening, it's not.
What?
You see, Amanda, you made one crucial mistake. You assumed I was just a bitter ex-wife seeking revenge. But I'm also a businesswoman, and businesswomen always have backup plans. I pulled out another phone, one Amanda had never seen before. This phone has been tracking every financial transaction you've made for the past 6 months. Every transfer, every account, every password you thought was secret. Amanda's face went from white to gray. That's impossible. Is it? You spent 3 years learning everything about me, Amanda. But you never learned the most important thing. Which is, I'm smarter than you. The police moved in then, surrounding Amanda. With practiced efficiency. She didn't resist as they handcuffed her, but her eyes never left mine. Even in defeat, there was something calculating in her gaze, like she was already planning her next move. Victoria Sterling, she said as they led her toward the police car. You think you've won, but this is far from over. Actually, it is over, I replied. Because while you were busy planning my destruction, I was busy planning yours. Detective Rodriguez approached me as Amanda was placed in the back of the patrol car. Mrs. Sterling, we're going to need a full statement about everything that happened tonight. Of course. But first, there's something I need to show you. I pulled out the second phone again and opened a banking app. Amanda was right about one thing. She did steal $3.7 million from my accounts. But what she didn't know is that I've been tracking every penny.
How?
I had my IT specialist install monitoring software on all my devices 6 months ago when I first suspected Amanda was stealing from me. Every time she accessed my accounts, every password she used, every transaction she made, it was all recorded. Martinez looked at the phone screen. So, you know where the money is? I know exactly where it is. And more importantly, I know how to get it back. I showed them the banking records. Amanda transferred the money to a Swiss account this morning, just like David said. But what she didn't realize is that the account was flagged by international banking authorities as soon as the transfer went through. Flagged how? I reported the theft to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division 3 days ago. They've been monitoring all international transfers from my accounts. The moment Amanda moved the money, it was frozen. Rodriguez smiled. So, she never actually had access to it. Not a penny. She thought she was so clever, but she walked right into a trap. As we talked, Marcus Chun was giving his statement to another detective. I could hear pieces of his story, how Amanda had been blackmailing him for months, threatening to destroy his business unless he helped her frame me for her fake murder. Mrs. Sterling, Detective Martinez said, there's one thing I don't understand. If you knew Amanda was planning to frame you, why did you go through with confronting her at the wedding? Because I needed her to commit to the plan. I needed her to actually attempt the frame-up, so we could catch her in the act. That was incredibly risky. Yes, it was. But it was the only way to prove what she was really capable of. The truth was, I'd been planning this confrontation for months. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered, every recording I'd made, every financial safeguard I'd put in place, it had all been leading to this moment. Amanda had thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. But she'd been wrong. I'd been playing chess too, just several moves ahead. What happens now? I asked. Now Amanda and David face federal charges for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Marcus will probably get a reduced sentence for cooperating. And you. And me. You get your life back. As the police cars drove away with Amanda and the last of the evidence, I stood in the quiet suburban street and felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years.
Peace.
Not the temporary satisfaction of revenge, but the deep, lasting peace that comes from justice finally being served. My phone buzzed with a text message from my lawyer. Swiss authorities have released the frozen funds. Money will be back in your accounts within 48 hours. I smiled and deleted the message. The money was important, but it wasn't why I'd done this. I'd done it because Amanda and David had tried to destroy me, and I'd refused to let them win. Detective Rodriguez walked over to me as the last police car disappeared around the corner. Mrs. Sterling, I have to ask, did you ever consider just taking your evidence to the authorities and letting us handle it? Every day for 2 years, I said honestly. But I knew that Amanda was too smart, too careful. She would have found a way to wiggle out of it, to blame everything on David or claim she was just following orders. So, you decided to take matters into your own hands. I decided to give her enough rope to hang herself. And if your plan had failed, if she'd actually succeeded in framing you. I thought about that for a moment. Then I would have spent the rest of my life in prison, knowing that I'd tried to do the right thing. Was it worth the risk? I looked back at Marcus Chen's house, where Amanda had made her last desperate play for freedom, where her elaborate scheme had finally collapsed under the weight of its own lies.
Ask me in a year, I said.
When I've had time to rebuild everything she tried to destroy. Detective Rodriguez nodded and handed me his card. If you need anything, call me. And Mrs. Sterling. Yes. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. As I drove home through the empty streets, I thought about David sitting in his jail cell, probably wondering how everything had gone so wrong. I thought about Amanda, realizing that all her careful planning had been for nothing. I thought about Marcus, finally free from the blackmail that had been controlling his life. But mostly, I thought about my father, who taught me that sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to stand up to them, no matter how scared you are. I did it, Dad. I whispered to the empty car. I stood up to them. The rain that had been threatening all evening finally began to fall, washing the city clean as I drove toward my future, a future that was finally, truly mine again. 6 months later, I stood in the same courthouse where Amanda and David were being sentenced. The judge had just handed down their punishment, 15 years for Amanda, 12 for David, both to be served in federal prison. As they were led away in handcuffs, Amanda looked back at me one last time. But this time, there was no calculation in her eyes. No schemes or plans or desperate attempts at manipulation. There was just the hollow look of someone who'd finally run out of lies. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked me how it felt to finally get justice. It feels like the end of a very long nightmare, I said. And the beginning of something better. I walked down the courthouse steps, the same steps where this had all begun, and got into my car. Sterling Digital Marketing was thriving again, bigger and more successful than ever. I'd hired new employees, honest ones this time, and implemented security measures that would prevent anyone from ever stealing from me again. But the best part wasn't the money or the success, or even the satisfaction of seeing Amanda and David behind bars. The best part was that I could finally sleep at night, knowing that the truth had won. As I drove away from the courthouse for the last time, I thought about the wedding reception that had started it all. The white roses, the champagne, the fairy tale that had been built on lies and theft. Amanda had been right about one thing. It had been a beautiful ceremony. Too bad it had been the last beautiful thing in her life for the next 15 years. I smiled and turned up the radio, driving toward a future that was finally, completely, and honestly mine.